We have Michael Bauer, who is currently the Senior Director of IT and OT at Celanese, a global technology and specialties materials company. He's an IT executive with over 22 years of experience transforming, building, and maturing IT organizations to deliver quantifiable business value. He has served as a Director of Global IT Operations at McAfee, as Vice President, Information Technology Security Operations and Compliance at Teleflora, and as CTO at Uplift Education. Joining him is Michael Glover. Michael is the founder and managing partner of Fox 3, focused on securing the nation's critical infrastructure through OT convergence and industrial security consulting and education. He previously served as a co-chair for the Department of Homeland Security Control System Security Program Workforce Development Subgroup. He's worked with the federal government to align NERCSIP, NIST, NICE, and ISA to provide a national crosswalk of knowledge, skills, and abilities.
It's actually a crossword puzzle.
Okay. Join me in welcoming them. Thank you.
What does NICE stand for?
I don't either.
Thank you, Gina, very much. So before we get started and put everybody through another mind-numbing series of presentations and stuff, I'd like to give a shout out to the PAS team to put this wonderful event together. We see a lot of them running around, scurrying around to pull this off, and I just want to give them a round of applause if we could. All right, so what you're going to see, what we're going to walk you through is what we're going to do with IT-OT convergence. So I'm at Celanese. Thank you, sir. Forgot something very important. And we're just going to kind of take you through the walk of what we're building for a framework. So, you know, this is something we're doing iteratively. We've kind of put a lot of time, money, and effort and everything into it, but we're going to share our experience and hopefully get some great feedback and maybe even some partners that are going through this exercise too. So as with any good initiative, you got to have a charter, right? So really what we wanted to do is come down and build a sustainable model that we can improve our risk posture without compromising our business values, which in case of process control, it is control. So the problem statement here is pretty simple, right? We had budget constraints that prohibited us from being able to staff appropriately, you know, have the right resources, the right training. People work 60, 80 hours a week on a perennial basis. So, I mean, it kind of boils down to that. I mean, we have process control engineers actually going out and patching servers or running a USB drive around, you know, to get data from one point to the other. And, you know, the real goal for us is to get the right work to the right people at the right time, and I'll always add the right cost, right? But it's the value play. So we look at this, you know, the other compounding factor to that is, I mean, let's be honest, you know, this landscape is, I mean, aggressively getting more and more sophisticated by the day. I mean, when my term at McAfee, I did a lot of the threat intelligence, and for the 5 years I was there, from the amount of data we'd run, you know, in the beginning, which was like 1 billion hits a month or something to that effect, turned into like 5 billion hits a month by the time I left, literally a fivefold. So it's absolutely unbelievable. So as we go through it, one of the things we wanted to do was get the vernacular. So it's almost like, you know, OT in this world, and, you know, we speak English, and IT in this world, and we speak some kind of French, or this one speaks English, that one speaks French, whatever it is, but they definitely don't speak
French
the same
is definitely
language.
close.
French, Italian, some one of those. Okay. So, but we wanted to take this and alignment. So what, you know, what gets measured gets improved. You know, all that cliche from GE, etc. But we wanted to build a framework to where it correlates back to the business technology plan and the unit technology plan. It's kind of a model that we use here at Celanese, right? And the purpose of that was to get that vernacular out in front of all the plant leadership so it correlates. So when we come to there and we sit down and we say, hey, look, we want to improve everything you're doing. Yeah, right, go sit down. You know, don't worry about it, we got this. But we wanted to demonstrate to them in their own vernacular what exactly this translates to. And it actually it's working really well so far. So our goal was to go through, pilot one site, apply kind of an agile, iterative approach to do it, and then replicate that model across the globe. So we're here in Houston. We're doing one of our large sites. You know, Celanese, a backdrop I can give you. I don't want to waste too much time telling you about the company profile. But we've got a global footprint, and we want to go through that exercise. Now, one of the things, and that we learned, and this was kind of a scope creep item that actually turned to be a great benefit, is we got introduced to cyber integrity. And this was able to accelerate a lot of our asset findings, as we heard Leo mention just a minute ago, to actually go through and understand, hey, what do we really have out there? Can't protect what you don't know, right? So with that, I'm going to pass it over to my much more energetic and fun colleague.
Hi, guys. Okay, so when we got involved with Celanese, I'm the dirty consultant. I'm that guy. So they called us, hired guns to get involved to help them out with this OT convergence. We did come up with a convergence plan initially. When we got involved with them, we kind of had to help IT understand that, because IT was the leader of this initiative. It came from IT. And to be honest, they wanted to actually kind of just drive it, you know, from IT down. And so when I got involved, I said, hey, but that's not going to work. All right, first off, I've been there, done that. You're just going to make everybody mad, right? It's like trying to teach a pig math, right? Just going to piss off the pig.
She's giving us cues. We got to go over here. There you go. Is that better, Gina? Thank you.
Already. Thanks. Anyways, we told them it had to start at the plant floor and move its way up, right? So we have to go to start there. So when we made the suggestion and the idea about going to the pilot, I'm like, let's go find out what you don't know. And the way you do that is you put those little flame retardant clothing on, and you go walk into a plant, and you got a little hard hat on, and you look around, and people show you things that go boom, right? And that's kind of where the start was. So once we got past the fact that we need to start it from the ground up, our next step was to take them and say, hey, we also need to start on a credible citation. So we went through the NIST guidelines, right? NIST framework. By the way, I'm going to do an 80-20 here. If 80% of people here know what NIST is, we're not going to cover it, but we started out with the NIST framework. Then we went to this BTP UTP, which discussed their business technical process. We actually literally just copied the NIST framework into a BTP plan. And then we went into the subsets and we put it into the UTP plan and said, okay, we're going to start from there. Obviously in the plan we had to align the ongoing efforts, right? So Celanese is a big company. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things. We want to make sure we weren't stepping on any toes. Trust me. Back to what we said, we built off the pilot. This is my favorite part. We started to identify functional roles. And we also, functional roles, and then we had to unify the process through data.
Excuse me, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you define BTP, UTP?
Yeah, it was that business technical process, unit technical process he mentioned earlier, sorry. And it was the first time I ever heard the terms as well. So, not today, but like a week ago. So, we started this RACI. Anybody understand those RACIs? This was new to me as well. This is kind of a roll-up of the RACI. We basically started to talk about where it was and where it's going, right? We actually went down and aligned with the NICE framework, which we'll talk about in a minute, on the actual tasks and identified the tasks through the RACIs as well, but this is a roll-up. You can see how it ended up. Project plan, pretty standard. One of our requirements was we start off with this little safety meeting so the plant guys know that we actually have been in a plant before. We went through, if you can see this alignment, this is directly the NIST framework, right? Step by step, right? Every single sub-step we went through as part of the process. Now, we had, this is your BTP right here. So in this BTP, you can see we can just line straight down. The UTP I didn't put in there, that's fine. Here, we had 101.13 days for doing the pilot. They didn't let us do that. So luckily, we took a gamble, and which made me nervous. We called PAS and said, we'll try your integrity product. We think it's going to get us the information. Part of our data collection phase is a long phase of this. It's going to provide us some insight, and we took a risk, and we won. Actually, they won. Literally.
We all win.
We all win. So in the data collection that we've talked about here, we also had some ongoing convergence. I mean, on the roadmap, we had some other things we were able to do while PAS was doing their thing, right? So this kind of shows it through this. But I want to back up. I want to see what I've got here. Nope. I want to back up to here. I didn't get a slide in here about the NICE framework. Anybody ever heard of that? Anybody know what that is?
Gina does.
Gina does. I just told her yesterday, 5 minutes ago. Okay, so the NICE framework was developed by the Department of Homeland Security. It is for cybersecurity. And one of the things we did different than everybody else, when you actually saw Mark talk earlier, I think he left, but we had Mark talk earlier, was talking about, each group and everything else. We broke all the efforts down into functional roles, right? And they're actually exactly along with NIST and exactly along with the NICE framework. Inside those functional roles, there's a series of tasks that that functional role is responsible to do. So those tasks are also listed in there. And then assigned to those tasks is the knowledge, skills, and abilities required to perform each one of those tasks. All right, so we built that data set out. And now we're able to take those functional roles and those tasks and split them across the domain. So when you talk about convergence, what we're really doing with this product is, and this is not a good slide for it, but what we're really doing at the end of this is we're actually being able to take existing resources in their IT department, identify if they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to be able to support all the way down in the plant, which is the end game, right? And then from that, identify the gaps, those knowledge, skills, and abilities, and build a training program. Said, you got to get this guy trained. He needs to have this much experience, right? So instead of, well, we are adding resources, which you can discuss in a minute, but instead of just going carte blanche, hey, we need 10 guys in process control, I said, no, you don't. You just need that security guy to know what the heck he's talking about. You need the server guy to know what he's talking about, right? So when we align the KSAs and those in there, we can also integrate that data into their ServiceNow product. So now you've got a single source of truth. So now we're taking PAS information that they're giving us for their assets, using the API for that, we're going to push it into ServiceNow and task the knowledge, skills, and abilities to the individuals that are assigned the tasks. So now when IT goes and says, hey, I'm going to assign this guy to do it, it's going to be a flag and say, this guy can't do it. He's missing this ability, this knowledge, right? So that's true convergence, right? So we're talking about data going back and forth and people working back and forth. Here we go, deliverables. This is you.
It's me. All right, so thank you, Mike. One of the things, too, is, you know, I'm not an OT person. I'm not an ICS person. And I've learned more from these
He's
guys.
on his way.
Yeah, I'm joining the dark side or whatever side it is. But I've learned more. I mean, one thing we recognized early on, I think it's really important, is, you know, we got to take the best of both worlds and figure out a way to meld them together without compromising some of the good things IT can do and some of the great things the OT world can do. So, and we were very deliberate, and we had some great partners here in the audience. I won't pick on them because they don't really like attention. But they kept us honest as we went through it. And they were painstakingly patient with me as I ask all these crazy questions. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. But they're educating me, and I'm becoming more knowledgeable and able to guide and shape this the way that they really need it shaped, which really excites me, and I really do appreciate the patience. He can be a knucklehead sometimes. I'm probably more of a knucklehead all the time. So when we get down to the deliverables, I mean, I'm not going to read these verbatim, but the goal was to get to the point where we're beginning to seed this model, where it's sustainable, we can measure it, we're going to learn from it, we got a lessons learned, continuous improvement loop, you know, going on with it. So I mean, that's the goal. But the key was to get to the point where, you know, people development, career development is very, very important to Celanese, right? And we're really starting to model that behavior. So we wanted to go through and build that development track with folks to where, you know, hey, look, here's your path, here's your track. So that training that Mike alluded to early on, you know, a little fancy laser deal, is really, really important to us. You know, but it's having and identifying and understanding an individual's interest and then driving the value. You know, one of the things we did, I'm a meticulous data guy, and it's just something I get a little wonky about, but we started doing analysis on unit costing a unit of work. Well, I mean, we got some really expensive process control folks. You know, I was having a discussion, I think, with Leo at lunch, and it's like, you know, $80 an hour to do something when I got a, you know, $15, $20 an hour IT resource that's capable of doing it. But the key is, you know, for them to have the accessibility is to build, protect, you know, that reference architecture to where they can't go anywhere beyond, you know, they can't hurt themselves. We got clear measurability of where the data's flowing, when it's coming in, you know, capture deviations of the norm, etc. So, but that's kind of where we're at. So I think we can stop for questions. We good?
Real quick though, just if you look at also when you said the reference architecture, some of our key findings in this pilot were the fact that a reference architecture is required to do this. I mean, you need a common set that's there throughout the units, right? Listen, guys, if you're in the manufacturing business for any time, you have units that are older than, well, not older than me, but older than some people in here, you know, I mean, and they're out there, right? And they have legacy systems and legacy hardware. Well, if you're trying to roll something out like this, you're going to have to find some common thread. So we started out with the network architecture, which is the next big step we're going to have to invest in. And then once that's there, then, you know, moving forward with that. The last thing on that I was going to talk about was the KSAs for training, right? Really trying to identify what those knowledge, skills, and abilities are, and identifying those tasks that are specific to the unit. So that will change. So because the one unit might have an Emerson DCS system in it, another unit might have a 1980s Honeywell system. So the task and the knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform that task will be different per unit. So that's how that'll change. Okay, that's it. For questions?
I actually have one question. Is anybody running ServiceNow in their environment? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you.
Question on that service now.
Good. We got to follow a formal process. Gina's going to get mad at us. You got to. What do we got to do?
We have run ServiceNow, but we have run in only the IT network, not towards ICS or PIN network. It's in dematerialized zone, in DMG zone. So what your experience? Is it ServiceNow you have implemented towards in PIN or in PCN network?
So what the plan is, we want to get the data in a single source of truth, right? So the CMDB. But what we're learning is we want to get the right data there. So there's use cases that are going to apply in Purdue, 0 to 2, 3. But we want to make sure we get the right data, the right attributes into ServiceNow. So the corporate cronies, myself, can do the reporting in ServiceNow, and the really smart people that need to do the advanced reporting can do it with the data sets that they need.
So you mean to say you have tested with the PIN and PCN network?
We haven't integrated it with ServiceNow. That's a goal. That's why I was asking if somebody had it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
we have tested and it's working good in IT, but not in.
It's working great in IT, but we haven't moved any of the ICS data to that yet.
Yeah, that is the interest I also have. I wanted to know that.
That's why I asked if somebody had it, because we'd like to talk to them if they've done it. Save us reinventing the wheel.
How we're going to move that data? Security guys, right? Anybody?
USB drive.
IT guy, see?
Other questions?
Uh-oh, Chad. Chad looks tough, Mike.
I'll take it. I got you.
As long as he's not with Matt, I think we're safe.
Oh, well, you're in trouble then. So one of the challenges, culture is a big piece of this, and I've always felt like, for operations guys, the biggest challenge with Convergence is trust, right? Because the OT guys are the ones that get the call in the middle of the night when something goes down. And on the other side of the coin, the biggest challenge, I think, for the IT guys is to understand that you can't go fast. Everything gets coordinated through operations. You can't just run it, and we don't try things in the ICS space. We know what we're doing, and we do it scheduled. So how did you address that from a cultural perspective?
So let me take a shot at it, and then my partner in crime will elaborate it. It's interesting, when I was looking for a partner to do this, I interviewed 9 people, right? And I had a hunch that we didn't have a technology problem, we had a people problem. So I wanted to get the right people person that actually understood the technology to help bridge that gap. And part of it was just putting on the FREs, right? Going out there, getting entrenched into it. And I stumbled across this knucklehead and his partner in crime, Matt. Matt, raise your hand, say hi to everybody. There you go, Matt, the other Fox 3 guy. But the point is, we were very deliberate about going and getting somebody that had the personality attributes, that can speak the language, but bridge the gap to the language that I'm trying to learn how to speak. And it really is a people problem and not a technology problem, is what we learned.
Absolutely. When we first got engaged, that was the first conversation we had.
Hey, wait a minute. Navy, but different Navy.
He was in the prison Navy. So when we first got engaged with Celanese, for Fox 3's point, we had to actually hone down the point, this is a people problem. As a matter of fact, I can tell you there's people out there that present data out there that says, OT-IT convergence, they have different ideas of technology, and they have different language, and they have, different priorities. None of that stuff matters, guys. None of it does, really. It's really about fiefdoms, right? These guys are managing a fiefdom, right? If you can get, so this is the way that IT and OT see each other. A guy from the plant sees an IT guy should have a ponytail and a Star Wars shirt on, right? That's how they see it, okay? And then the IT guys see the plant guys like they should be a Kyle Busch fan, sorry.
Dale Earnhardt, come on. Dale Earnhardt, come on, pay some tribute.
But anyways, one of those fans, and they should have those shirt on, and they have nothing in common. The technology guys, it's not that much different. Some of the priorities are, of course, fine. We know plants blow up and things happen, and those are the protocols are there, but they're just electrons at some point, right? The technology is not really the problem. What I did years ago is I actually took when I was at Prime Controls, I built a convergence team, right? I basically went and found the 2 best process control engineers and the 2 best IT guys, and I put them on the same problem, and I sent them everywhere together. They went to training together, they worked with the projects together. I don't care if they were working on the virtualization of a server or if they were doing ladder logic in a PLC. The guy was sitting right next to me, right? That was my first attack. And I found out that those guys actually started to get along, and then they started to become effective. So then what happened is we started sending those guys to customers. They really liked it. So that's how we got here. So that's my statement on that. You guys come up for argument if you want to debate me on that topic. Trust me.
Other questions?
When you started this, how much scope did you have to find, or what was your starting point to get to this? Because it sounds like you guys kind of started from nothing, and so needing to get a cybersecurity framework in place, and at an organization the size of Celanese, I'm sure that's no small task. So how much did you have to do to prep, or did you find a consultant you could work with and say let's build something from the start?
Yeah, God, great question, because it started. It started at level 3, right? And it was going to stay there. We weren't going to go below level 3. It's including the DMZs. I've seen some move at different places, but that changed like overnight. As soon as we started getting a little data set and realizing how many not dones, we didn't get it. We don't want to go through all the meticulous detail in here, but we had so many not dones identified in that RACI that we couldn't let it go. It's too dangerous. It's way too important. So we literally, and this is how PAS got into it, it's like we blew the scope up. We broke every rule in the project management lifecycle on the 3rd day, I think, literally. And it was, instead of going all the way back to the well, we got creative, and we actually, these guys had a tight timeline, had to shrink it. But PAS actually helped us accelerate it to get the data and really prove that what we're doing was right.
And follow-up, what was your overall start-to-finish timeline from where you identified and, or basically from the time you got the contract started to the implementation of the program?
Well, in fairness, we only did 1 unit, right? And we could have probably did it in 30 days faster, in my opinion, but no. So we only did 1 unit. Now it was our pristine brand new unit in methanol over in Clear Lake, and we were just about 90 days, a little less, right?
And that's
75 days.
75
days.
days.
That's including them getting all the paper. You've got some stuff. I'm sure you made some improvements and stuff, but that was 90 days to get the paper in the plant, right?
Okay, so again, this was back to our scope question is. Yes, we did it in 75 days. We did get a little bit head start, as far as all the process and documentation.
A little bit.
And we actually didn't get the paper signed off until we were 45 days into the project. So we just went to get it.
And we didn't put it on here. It was a board item. We had to go do it. We got our board meeting coming up in 4/16, so in a couple weeks, actually a week away, next week. So we were able to accelerate some bureaucracy. But we came back retro to make sure we were compliant and didn't have the governance police after us.
Come talk to me after this.
All right.
Okay, other questions?
So I got to ask, because it's obvious you two have worked together to get the camaraderie you've got. So when you started out, you were going from a confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and he's going from availability, integrity, and confidentiality nobody give a damn about.
You got it.
How did you solve that?
You stay in an Airbnb house for 75 days.
No, that's actually it. That's actually it. We literally lived together for this whole quarter. It kind of changes the dynamic a little bit when, like, this guy gets up in the morning and he groans like something's wrong with him. Everybody in the house can hear it.
I don't think
And so you get to that camaraderie quickly like that. No, this is a unique case. Mike and I's personalities are very similar, and Matt. We got really lucky with the chemistry right out of the gate. We really did.
But going back to the question, your approach, because of your background and your approach, but you're aware of his, and all of us in OT are aware.
Actually, the real answer was that Bauer is. He really kind of humbled himself in the entire project. He does that in general, right? So he knew that I was a CIO for an industrial automation integrator, so I've done both sides of the job. So he knew that and just said, hey, teach me, right? And so he went through that through all phases. saying that you're going to find leadership that's going to go through the same iterations that he went through and the same humility he went through to get this. But I mean, even with his process control guys in the back, he tried to soak up as much information as possible. He didn't make assumptions, right? Which is going to kill you. Your IT guys always make assumptions. That kills you, right? And he didn't try to take charge, right? And so I think that's a key when you're looking for success from leadership is, again, it's got to come from the plant floor, guys. It just does.
Oh, yep, 100%.
And once it's from the plant
100%.
floor, if you got leadership that will sit and listen and figure it out, then you'll be okay.
Thank you. Team effort, though. I appreciate
Any
it.
other questions? Do you have a question? I'm sorry, excuse me.
Uh-oh, ExxonMobil.
Al Hill, you're from ExxonMobil. This is really more of a terminology question. You started with IT, OT convergence, but I saw on your deliverable page it was really OT. So could you elaborate a little bit on the discussion around what you guys...
Love that guy.
Me too.
You want to do it?
Yeah. So it started out as IT-OT convergence. It's going to end as an OT-IT convergence.
And the vernacular matters.
It matters a lot to the plant. You guys know. I mean, I'm learning this. So yes, great catch. Great catch. That was.
Actually was a topic of discussion when I first got involved. I'm like, you got to flip those.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, because OT needs to drive.
I told him he's crazy. But this.
There's a question right there.
No, you're spot on, right?
Anybody
Accurate.
else?
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you both, Michael.
Thank you.